All right, so let's go over today's finance video. So today we went through, and obviously the portfolio has gone up a little bit. It's been about a couple of weeks since we last went over everything. So we look at the overall performance of the portfolio. I believe I've made two contributions of around $100 since I last did this one. Um, yeah, I need to come up with a format for like where things stood last week, where they stand this week. But in the meantime, we're just gonna have how it stands right now. So looking at today, let's look at my notifications. Let's see, I purchased MP, Google, Sats, Planetary Labs. So the big thing for me today was that this morning, this was around when I bought. It was right around here, 443. I'm for where we are right now in the market, I think with Tesla, I really do not see this being a good purchasing point. Um, like long term, I think it's still a good purchase point, for like the 10-year vision. I'm tempted presently to go and sell off my entire stake in Tesla. Because I think something similar to what happened about a year ago is going to happen again. There is a slight chance because we have the upcoming, I believe, November annual meeting. We're going to go over the plans, and those can be sort of hit or miss. They can be sort of like a hype purchase moment, or I mean, you can all go kind of like any way on those. So it's very news cycle related. Fundamentally, I think there's just a lot of core investor enthusiasm. I was pretty much buying all the way up until right about here-ish. But today we're near all-time highs. You can't continue to dollar cost average, but I opted to just double up on Planetary Labs today just because I think that it's still a phenomenally valued stock. Why am I going? Let's go back to the retirement. So that was kind of my purchases today, and as the week goes, I'm really debating selling off my whole Tesla position and hoping to buy back. Kind of mm, like at around this point. I think we might go down to like a two, like the 2 to 300 range, 250 to 350 range. I think is much more to be expected, unless there's just some massive announcements and enthusiasm that come from Robotaxi. So, but I mean, as it stands, like a PE of 255 is just, unless there is something substantive to catch the stock up, I don't see it maintaining this price. But clearly, the hype cycle does continually catch back up to it, and there are a lot of people that just don't really want to at all sell their Tesla. So, yeah, for the week, if we get like a big spike, I might go and sell it off. Cautiously, I think I'm just holding it for now, and I'm probably going to do that. So most of this week, I'm not probably going to buy any Tesla. I may, in fact, sell off all the Tesla. But we are holding surprisingly at this value range, so I don't know why that's necessarily going on. Other than that, my Planetary Labs is continuing to go well. I started purchasing at 6. Obviously, it's gone about double. I still think this is a tremendously valuable stock to go in on. I mean, as far as the fundamentals, it's a growth stage company, but I'm going to keep probably purchasing this for quite a few years unless it just no longer makes sense. But we purchased a little bit of that today. I'll probably keep dollar costing that this week. I need to like remember tabs. The new core, surprisingly, I'm a little surprised this has gone down the degree that it has. Yeah, but oh well. And I'm just going to keep purchasing. um, I think the next thing I'm going to do, we're recovered quite a bit of the losses in ASTS. I think I can ride this out probably another couple percentage points to break even. Then I'm going to sell off this put it in a SAS just because these are competitive interests. And I'm more bullish on this is a SpaceX surrogate, so more bullish on that. Much more bullish on that. And I'm going to keep dollar cost averaging. I think this is just a no-brainer for me and myself. Yeah, that's pretty much the weekly update. My plan for the week is to mostly dollar cost average. Between MP, I think MP is kind of at this holding stage where obviously it bumped up a ton in value, but fundamentally I think it's still valued. Yeah, it's like negative PE ratio. There's a lot baked into this price, but it's been kind of holding steady around this range ever since kind of things transpired. I really only see this going up with any increased tensions between United States-China relations. Black swans could be, any sort of damage to facilities, unexpected financial issues, but that's basically backed by the U.S. government at this point. So, like the big things that I think are going to cause any sort of downturn is actually like local political news in the United States. Financial issues, government shutdowns, things like that. I think that could soften this. Non-Chinese rare earths companies making a big move into the market, other nations putting a big move behind rare earths to compete with China. I think those are your big things that will tug this down, as well as the cooling off of tensions between the United States and China on a trade basis. Otherwise, I think this is ultimately just going to continue to rise steadily over time. I think we're going to be kind of in another purgatory around this area. I started buying kind of between like here and here on the expectation that we were going to see this increase. And I think we'll be sort of in another holding pattern for a while, and usually some sort of news event will probably cause spikes. Anything conflict related to see spikes. So I'm going to continue to dollar cost average into this. I think it's still really good value, and you'll see some more of these kind of crazy spikes. Planetary Labs, I kind of walk through that guy. I just think it's a good long-term space equity holding. Obviously, it's doubled for me. Timu, this again, really good protectionist play. Really bullish. They're going to be needed to participate in a lot of the infrastructure spend in the United States as far as AI and continued cloud development, things like that, as well as just compute hardware. So this is further supply chain down. This is manufacturing that. Labs, exposure to space, SATs, exposure to space, and then I've also been putting into Google. This is probably one of my more controversial opinions, but I believe Google is still number one in the Apple App Store. Yeah, so Gemini still currently number one. I think they actually will end up overtaking GPT as the primary LLM that consumers use. And they have a phenomenal B2B component, and I think just much more solid business fundamentals from an enterprise to an individual consumer level to support this. The big black swan here is going to be if somebody really develops like an artificial super intelligence or really hits some like functionality benchmark that it's so undeniable that using that model makes more sense. So I think that's where we're at on that one. But I'm pretty confident that Google's business fundamentals just surpass the others. I haven't done too big of a deep dive on like their infrastructure and what they need to support it, but as search, like human-based search declines and it becomes more of a back end for LLMs, I think they just have tremendous advantage. And then as you head into like video and photo, they own the largest data sources for video and photo. YouTube doesn't get much bigger for video than YouTube. So I think that's where models are going, and whoever really wins on video ultimately is going to like properly win, but it's going to be the bimodal thing, right? Because you have this utility driven thing, which is oftentimes more text based, and that's like the ability to actually perform functional like tasks, kind of like a robot brain. And then you have like the consumer side where it's like, how are people using this, right? And even myself, I find myself reflexively now, I go to Gemini as a consumer for anything photo related. It's just so good. So good. As a business person, as an individual, for marketing, for just personal photos, incredibly valuable. And of course, it's baked into Android. So, extremely bullish. I'm going to continue dollar cost average. So, most of my week is going to be focused on Google. It's going to be on Planetary Labs, um, Micron, MP, and yeah, sats. So, which is just a proxy for SpaceX, because about half the value of that is SpaceX. Yeah. Okay. Let's go. Let's look at a week. So how are we doing compared to last week? We're up marginally. I mean, as of September 22nd. Is that last one? Yeah. So we were 2906. We're up to 2030. We're up a small amount. Obviously, there's been some big swings throughout this, but I'm not getting too tight in. The big pressure for me right now is just, do we sell that Tesla? I think we're at the top. If I had trusted my gut on the last sell, on this little handy dandy analyzer over here. Let's look at this. I remember waking up on December 17th and thinking I should sell. If I had done that and then just bought back at any other time, even if I just bought back somewhere around, like it's stabilizing here. Let's say I bought back kind of at this point, 282 up to 440. What's 282? Yeah, it's like a 64% return. So I would have increased my stake by about half simply by timing the market. But timing is dangerous because right, what if I did that here and then we're just I'm just out. I missed out on any appreciation. So there's danger to timing the market. Lots of danger to timing the market. Yeah, I think we are still fundamentally overvalued right now. You could follow it. Try. I think the proper price is much more in this 250 to 300 range. It's not supported by the fundamentals. So we'll have to see what happens on the robo-taxi. In the meantime, we won't really have any meaningful guidance on that for a while from now to November. But when is the TSLA annual meeting? November 6th. So we've got a little over a month of just rumor mill news. It could drop off or spike. I don't know. It's a really big risk to try to move this any which way before that annual meeting. I think we'll get a little bit of a pop following the meeting and a sobering reality based on the practicalities of the robotaxi rollout. I mean, that's what the robotaxi rollout, semi production volume, and potentially another new model, as well as the cybercab. Right, these are going to be the big levers, and their status is what's going to really determine how this goes, along with Optimus and like any demonstration. So I'm probably just going to keep holding. It's cool to think of doubling by timing the market, but the safe move is simply just to hold the equity and continue dollar cost averaging when I can. So right now, I think it's a bit of a mistake. It's to put money in, and I think I'll just shift my flows elsewhere for the time being that are more high performing. Because most of my performance this year, honestly, has come from, like, obviously the bulk of the portfolio moving is because Tesla's riding an all-time high. But if we go back to retirement, because I've started to invest and to add a little bit of diversification across to, you know, like exposure to AI infrastructure, exposure to space industry, and yeah, a little bit of robotics exposure. I've kind of evened out some of my portfolio volatility, which has been really nice because a lot of these like gains in here came from when I started to see big returns on my MP, my Micron, the Planetary Labs, and I think like Sats and others will kind of, and as well as Google. I think Google will just be a steady performer. It's a very massively valuable company, but a couple of those other smaller players I think will see some serious return as well. And they help even out the down days for Tesla. And of course I have, my S&P. But yeah. So yeah, that's kind of the update. That's the strategy for the week and how the portfolio is doing and kind of where we're going. Thanks for hanging out. And we'll kind of review on Friday how the results did for the week, where performance are, and we'll try to come up with some sort of like chart more than this to for those things. I guess final ending notes. Obviously, I'm not a financial advisor. Everything in here is my opinion. This is not financial advice. This is purely for entertainment purposes and to inspire others to potentially do something in the realm of investing. But this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, etc., etc. I'm not a professional at this. I'm simply sharing my experience. Okay, thanks.